Hi, everyone. This is Egidio Nourishment. I'm with Life Wellness Azores, and I have with me today João Xavier from Caminhando Azores. And we're going to be starting off a series of webcasts that are going to showcase some of the partners that we work with. We've selected these partners because of their what we believe high quality standard of providing services to their clients and guests as they visit the respective islands. And having met João actually not that long ago, we met in November, actually late October, with Carlos Suarez and Laura Scarfo from the YouTube channel, Our Journey on Pico Island. And so we went around the island, and people may have seen the video that Carlos and Laura did, and I was in there as well. And I was very impressed with João and the way he took us around and showed us around the island of Pico. So much so that we continued the discussions, and I very much want to continue working with him and his team. And we've already put together a couple of packages for people. He's going to be helping a group that's coming in from Winnipeg, a group of ladies that are coming in, and they're coming in next September. And we've organized a couple of days, and Joe and his team will be receiving them and taking them around, showing them Pico Island, but also going to go over to Fayal with them as well. So you'll be hearing more about the tours as we do another series of these. But today we're going to focus on Pico and Pico Mountain more specifically. So João, thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
My pleasure.
Great. I know it's something that might be outside of your comfort zone, and you know what? It's outside my comfort zone as well, but we'll just take it one step at a time. It'll be great. So perhaps we could start just with an overview of kind of, your history with tourism, how you got started, how you started the company.
I've worked in tourism for now 30 years, actually. But Caminhando Azores, we set it up in 2008. Because I thought there was the need to sort of officialize everything that we were doing, and also with the series of with the growing of the tourism, then of course there's the increase in regulations and a series of licenses and insurance that was required by the authorities at the time. So to officialize everything, we set up the company in 2008, and the first year and a half basically was just taking care of all the legal parts, which are many. And then by summer of 2009, then we started offering our guided walks, guided island tours, and the Pico climb, which is always the most seeked of our activities.
Yeah. And from what you were telling me, you were one of the first people to actually kind of make some way and make some road as part of, the creation and legalization and everything else. So you were at the forefront as far as tourism companies in becoming an official guide up the mountain.
Yes. Initially, but I'm back. Me and a couple of friends, we call ourselves the Pico Mountain dinosaurs, because we were part of the first. Actually, the first course that was administered for Pico Mountain guides was set up at the time just to give some knowledge to those that were already practicing as guides. That there's not many, but there was I don't know, a handful of individuals that did this service. People, tourists, or any visitors wanted a guide, then locally people would know who would do that. And so the first course for mountain guides, Pico Mountain guides, was for those that were already doing it, and then later and through the years, they've done many courses, and I think at the moment there's official Pico Mountain guys. There's around 200 or something like that, but many of them don't practice, and so the ones on the mountain are basically the same, and I believe there will be another course this year, and hopefully we'll get some younger people involved and wanting to do it. But it's not easy because I've through the years and with Caminhando, we've had a few intern students that and some of them in the beginning say, "Oh, I want to be a guide also," and we take them up a few times, and they a lot of them don't change their mind. You see, because it's not an easy job.
I'll tell you a little bit of a story myself. When I went up, and when I went up, I said, I'm not doing this ever again. But fast forward 12 years, and I might reconsider it. So our goal today is to kind of give everyone who's watching this an overview of you and your team. And because Pico Mountain is, at the top of the list, as you've said, as far as things to do when people come to the Azores, Pico Mountain is the tallest point in Portugal. And so there's people who are in shape and have a desire to climb it. It is doable. And so we'll take people through some pictures. So a bit of a show and tell as we go through here. So we're going to just flip through some pictures here. So this is you coming up the mountain. There's Fayal in the background. Mm-hmm. And so maybe just as we're going through some of these pictures, you can speak to a couple of people that we have up here on the screen.
Oh, yes. Well, on the left, that's me and my son, Pedro. He's my partner. He's actually been up Pico with me close to 130 times.
Wow.
And he's only 19. So
wow.
He's I would think without a doubt his age, nobody else has climbed it as many times for sure.
Now you had actually, just as far as the number of times that people have gone up with from Caminhando Azores, you were telling me the number of ascents is quite astounding. The number of times your company has gone up.
Yeah, since 2008, we've guided to the top of the mountain around 1,400 groups.
That's amazing. And who's the little one with you here in the picture?
This was he's a client actually.
He's a client, very young client.
Yes, he was is a 9-month old child that was a couple of Austrians, a young couple, and they took their baby up with them. It was they're quite a very, very fit and sporty couple. And at that time, this was a few years back, it was allowed. Now there's a minimum age requirement of, I think it's 9 now. It's about to change.
I must say, I think they're much braver than I was, or I am. I don't think I would bring a baby like that up, but good for them for doing it.
I would have, but my wife wouldn't let me.
And who do we have here in the picture?
Well, so this is in the front is Cecilia, which is one of my co-workers. Cecilia is she's a great guide. The groups always love her. She's a very, very fun person. Very likes to laugh. That's Cecilia. And she was my first employee right from the beginning. She still works with us every year, but just for from May to September, the high season, and the rest of the year she's goes off to Switzerland and does other things. Yeah.
Very good. And so today we're going to focus on climbing Pico Mountain and giving people an overview of what it's like. And also at the end, we'll be wrapping up with some suggestions on how people should be prepared if they're looking to go up, either by themselves or with a guide, which is certainly going to be something we'll discuss at the end as well. But in addition to that, you also offer some minibus tours, some hiking trails and excursions, wine tasting. We're going to be covering this, so I'm not that I'm jumping through it, but we're going to be doing this in a separate webcast. And so anyone interested in hearing more about these, please look for the other webcast that we'll be putting up shortly as well. But the one that we are going to focus on today is the mountain tours and going up there. And as we said, it's the tallest point in Portugal. It's it is exactly 2,351 meters of altitude. And I know when you took us around the island of Pico, you had a lot of information on geology and formations, and that was quite interesting. And if I understand correctly, that I think it's up there, the distance actually from the to the top to if you take out the water and go to below the water, it's actually quite a mountain range. Can you speak to that?
The Pico Mountain rises 2,351 meters above sea level, but where everything started at the ocean bed, the ocean floor, it's around 1,000 meters from underwater to where because all of these the Azores, the 9 islands, are all formed by submarine volcanoes, and they all start building up until eventually you reach the ocean surface, and then eruption after eruption after eruption. Then you get a volcano that stands out of the ocean impressively, like Mount Pico, which is
right.
the highest, and it's the highest point in all of Portugal.
Right. So that's the point here that we were making. And actually, this picture I took on the boat on the way from São Jorge to Pico on the day we actually did our climb back in 2011. So one of the objectives today is to give people an overview of what it's like to climb the mountain, things that they will see in some terrain that they'll have to face. And so I included some pictures as well from the climb that I did with my kids. And I must admit, the only reason I think they went up with me was because they were concerned for my safety, because I was probably about 40 pounds more fatter than I am today. Not that I cannot afford to lose a little bit more, but I was much heavier then, and they came up with me because they were concerned something was going to happen to me on the way up. So we did climb ourselves, take ourselves up the mountain. Didn't know how many markers there was. So this is us going through the markers and counting them. I think you can see the number there is in single digits. And little did I know there's actually 45 markers. And so good, as we said before we started talking, probably just as well that I didn't know how many there were, because it never seemed like they were ending. You, because sometimes you only see one as you're approaching the next one. And like here, you don't see one until you get to the top, and then you see the next one. So the terrain was quite steep at points. This is up at the top, and it took us about 3 hours to get to this point. You probably do it a lot faster than that, but we were not.
No, that's the average time of our ascent to that point is 3 hours. Yeah. That's actually a pretty good time, 3 hours, because from the mountain house to that point, you're practically at 2,300 meters here. Because although Piquinho is around 70 meters high, it starts from the base of the crater, and you're a little bit higher there. So you're very close to 2,300 meters. So you've gone up 1,100 meters, and on mountain trekking, if you can do 100 meters in every 15 to 20 minutes, that's considered a good time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good to know. Good benchmark. Thank you for that. We actually did not end up going up the Piquinho, as you said. And the reason we did is we had to make it back down to catch the ferry back to São Jorge, because believe it or not, we did this on a day trip. We took the ferry in the morning, went to the mountain, climbed, and had a taxi waiting for us. And so we needed to get back down. And the other reason was from a safety perspective. This was our first time climbing. We were tired, and I actually, from a safety concern perspective, decided, because it's even, I understand it's a little steeper to go up to the last part.
It's not, it's more intimidating than it is really difficult.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the reason why you didn't do it is because you were alone and unguided. Because
Okay.
if you and you had no idea how long it would take you, and you
Yes.
looked at it and you thought, "Oh, that's massive. We'll never do it," and
Yep.
so we're going to miss our ferry.
Yeah.
But if I told you, if I were with you, we could do it in 15 minutes up and 15 minutes down. You probably would have done it.
Well, I tell you what, you're going to have a chance to prove it because when I did it this time, when I got to the bottom, this was us having lunch once we were up at the top, above the clouds. And actually, the reason I put this picture in is just to show people how dangerous it is. Actually, more coming down than it is going up. And
Oh,
you'll
for
notice
sure.
we have here the poles, and we'll talk about safety and how to be prepared. But that was one of the reasons for including this. And this was my daughter hugging the ground as she got to the bottom. And she as well said, I'm never doing this again. But you know what? She's actually gone back up already with friends. And
Okay.
I'm prepared to go back up. So now we're going to turn our attention to some of your pictures and some of the groups that you've taken up. So you're here in this group on the right here. Maybe you can take us. I'll flip
Yeah.
through some of these pictures and you pipe in with comments on any of them.
Right. This is me on the right, and up there in the back is Marco, my colleague, my coworker. Um, so we always, whenever we organize groups, and there's always there's a maximum of 12 people per guide permitted, but normally when we have a mixed group, we'll always take two guides if it's more than 8 participants, because there are chances that there might be very different rhythms, and that way we can divide up the group if necessary, and it always works well. If it's just one guide, and then it can be a really difficult climb if you have very, very different rhythms.
Right. And so the picture we have here is actually the departure from the mountain house, the Casa de Montaña, as they say.
Yes, this is where we start, right next to the protector of the mountain, the angel.
Uh-huh. There it is in the picture, just here. So this is the starting point, if you will.
Yes.
This is another group that you've got up at the top as well. We'll just flip through because we've got a few here, and you've got some coming back down. So I see people of different ages up here, and here we see some younger
yes,
folks.
This is a family here. There's that little girl. She's 8 years old, and her parents were very worried about her, but she actually did much better than them. So we take a lot of that's her over there again. She's she was always right behind me and very, very.
And I think that's the way kids usually are, right? They're a little bit more nimble, and maybe sometimes parents have some other hangups that maybe hold them back a little bit more than the young kids. But as far as ages, what kind of age range do you typically take up?
Yeah, that's she was 8. That would be, I guess, the right age. Unless we have taken up younger kids, 5, 6. It all depends on the child, and parents know their children, and if they think they're capable. And now when the new regulation starts, if it's allowed, because
and what about at the other end, from a 60, 70? What was the oldest person that you've taken up?
Oh, we've taken up people in their 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we've actually learned that age and physical ability is this. It's you can't judge somebody's physical capability from their age.
Right.
If they're seniors or even if they're juniors, if you have a group of all people in their 20s and 30s, it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy climb. It can be a difficult climb, and you can have a very easy climb with seniors all in their 60s and 70s.
And so here we have some pictures, and I stopped on this one because it's an interesting climb, and people are wearing headlights, so maybe you can speak to these type of climbs that you do, obviously at night.
Yes, the sunrise ascent is is always something that's very intriguing, and it seems like everybody wants to climb up during the night to see the
In the dark.
sunrise. The truth is, it doesn't always happen that we see the sunrise. So it's a bit of a risk spending a night climbing up the mountain, and sometimes you don't get above the clouds. This is the typical type of weather in the summer, is very low clouds, so you don't really see the islands unless you're very fortunate on a very lucky day. But this would be what you expect. But you can also be in the clouds, which is quite disappointing when you spend the night climbing up the mountain and then have absolutely no view. I always I try and tell people that the night climb is if you have doubts about your capability, then you should try the day climb.
Yeah.
And we recommend more the night climb as a second experience if you've done, so you sort of know what to expect.
Yeah.
Because during the night it's more difficult for us as guides, because we don't have as good a perception of what's going on with the people, because we can't really see their faces because it's night and it's dark.
Mhm.
And it's much easier to manage a group during the day. But if it's people that it's the night climb is for people that don't have doubts, that they know that they can do it. It's
And in this picture here, we have the shadow of the mountain kind of, I guess that would be over Fayal. Fayal would be under those clouds over there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Fayal would be slightly to the right of the shadow there.
Okay. Very, very beautiful pictures if you're lucky enough to be up there as the sun is just rising. It's amazing.
Yes, yeah.
Now here's another experience. This is a picture actually I just pulled from the internet to show people that Pico does have snow, but the reason I wanted to show this picture is so we could actually get into some of the pictures from your climbs. And so maybe you can speak to some of these. I'm right now I'm in Canada and I have snow outside, a lot of snow outside, but Pico, we always think about the summer weather and everything, but on Pico Mountain, there's snow.
Yeah. Well, we have snow on the mountain from practically from November to May. There's always a little bit of snow. Yesterday, we climbed up with a group of teenagers from a sailing school, and there wasn't snow, but there was quite a lot of ice towards the top. And ice is actually a bit trickier than the snow, but we were really lucky with the weather, and it melted just enough so we had enough stones and to make our way up.
Yeah.
And when we came down, it had practically all melted already. So
really. And what about foot gear? Like, we're going to talk about foot gear later, but with the snow and the ice, I would imagine it's not only hiking boots or shoes. No. It's more than that.
We have the proper equipment, crampons for the snow and ice.
Okay.
But of course, if we don't have to use them, then we don't. I think on this particular day that nobody is using using crampons, because this and we had them, but the snow is fluffy and it's not dangerous.
Okay.
If it's icy, also putting on crampons in the snow, you're after a while because most of these groups, nobody has ever put on crampons before, so you have to help them and tie them and everything. And by the time you've done half a dozen people, you can't feel your hands anymore.
Wow.
So it's
wow. And so actually we're coming up to the end here, and we've got some words of wisdom to share with people. And this is actually a picture that I took during our climb up. And the reason I put it in here is just for people to get a sense of, what it's like to climb up. And although in this visual I have arrows drawn there pointing to the markers, but when you're on site on the ground walking up, at least when we were going up, there were parts of it where, as I said earlier, you couldn't see, you could see the next marker, but not the marker beyond that. But this is a picture that's a little bit further out, wide angle, and so you can see a couple of the points. And here in this picture, you see 4 or 5 of them, but there's actually 45 of them. So you can imagine when you get to the top of this hill, there's many more still to go through. So here we've got some words of wisdom that we want to cover off as we come to the end here. But and I'll speak to this first one, because when we went up, we did it on our own, maybe a little bit of ignorance on our part, but people had told me at the time that it was doable, and we made it. But I must admit, I think it would have been a lot more easier. It would have been a lot easier, and like you said, we probably would have made it up to the top of Piquinho, and now I have to go back just to get up to the top of Piquinho. Yeah. But if we had a guide, that would have certainly helped us out. And maybe I'll just touch on the second one, and then you can take it from there. When we were coming down, what we found is it was more dangerous coming down than it was actually going up, just because, one, we were anxious to get down, and so maybe a little bit more in a hurry. And we weren't in a hurry because of the taxi waiting for us or anything like that, but it was just to be done, to get it done. Mm-hmm. And it's downhill, so gravity is working with you, so you don't have to force as much. You just kind of let your feet go. But as I told the kids a couple of times, this is the most dangerous part, or at least I felt it was for us, because we could easily twist our ankle. And a couple of times the ankles kind of did go sideways a bit. Luckily, nothing major, and we kind of walked it off. But that's why I kind of put that up there, that don't rush it either up or down. Maybe you can walk us through some of these other points that we have up there as well.
Yeah, for sure, the descent is more difficult than the ascent. And quite often our groups will take longer coming down than going up. Coming down isn't demanding cardiovascularly, but it's very demanding in terms of balance, and you see, and it starts to wear into you, and towards the end, because your muscles are tired, and your legs aren't holding out as they were in the beginning, and accidents can happen, and they, like, I would risk and say like 95% of the accidents on Mount Pico happen on the way down, and always halfway down or more, because people are tired. So it's important to have a slow descent is a safe descent.
I think the 3 almost accidents that we had, and each one of us had our little oopsie, was within the last half hour to the last hour of reaching the bottom. That's when we kind of got a little careless.
Yeah, we've seen it happen in the last half hour. People get injured because it's the fatigue from the whole day of walking, and but then we're always very attentive, and there's signs, when you start seeing people struggling, and so sometimes we have to keep them close.
Yeah. So what can people do to prepare? How should they prepare?
Well, that's an interesting question, because the only way really to train to walk on a mountain is by walking on a mountain. So it's but you have to be physically fit. So any type of cardio exercise that you can do will help you, but you can also be very well prepared in terms of cardio and have a lot of trouble with the balance. It's the difficulty of Mount Pico is the uneven terrain. It's and there are parts of it that are very loose, and so it's a tricky mountain because of that. It's not really the distance that you walk, because you'd be very disappointed to know that you only walked 4 kilometers up and 4 kilometers down. But in those 4 kilometers you ascend 1,150 meters. So it's a serious trek. In mountain walking, anytime you ascend over 1,000 meters and descend in one day, is considered a serious day of walking.
Oh, very good. And what about clothing and gear? What should people have?
So clothing, we always recommend the three layers minimum required. In the summer, it gets very hot, so probably you won't need more than just a t-shirt or some very thin shirt. However, if we're high up and the clouds come in, it can get very cold, and it
Mm.
gets very cold very fast. So you have to be prepared with extra layers. And I've actually had, like, in the middle of the summer, like uh, really cold days on the top, because it's just in the thick cloud,
Mm.
and above 2,000 meters, clouds are like blocks of ice. They're really cold.
You know, my expectation when we were going up was that it was going to be cold and we had layers and clothes. And as you saw there, when in the picture where I'm at the top at the last marker, I was just in, shorts and a short sleeve. And we
Oh,
were
that's
lucky. I guess that day was a very nice day and it was fine. But my expectation was that it was going to get cold. And so certainly also hiking shoes, not just running shoes, should be good hiking shoes with hard soles and poles as well.
Yes, good proper trekking shoes, hiking shoes. The best really is the hiking boots, because it gives you that ankle support, a little bit of
Right.
extra support,
Yeah.
which really helps, especially coming down.
Yeah. I,
Uh,
I found a lot of pressure on the toes because it's a lot of,
yes,
coming down. So you need that ankle support to hold you back a bit. Otherwise, your
yes,
foot is pushing down to the front of the shoe.
yeah, and then it gets sore.
Yep,
It starts getting sore, and then
absolutely.
if it continues pushing, then your toenails turn blue. But
Yep.
let's not get into that.
And now, what about water and food?
So we recommend a minimum of a liter and a half of water. It's important in the hot months to start really early to avoid the very hot sun, because the sun rises on the other side of the mountains. So if we start walking up at sunrise, at daybreak, we can reach practically 2,000 meters, always in the shadow of the mountain,
Oh,
and it
nice.
really makes a difference.
Yep.
I know your climb, you came from Saint George, so you probably started walking up at 10 in the morning or
Oh,
something,
it was actually 11. Yeah.
which is crazy. That's just crazy.
And you know what? On that point, I actually called three guides. So it says I went up, and I'm suggesting people use the guide. I actually did call three guides, but they all told me no, it's too late in the day. I'm not going,
Yeah,
not going up. So yeah,
yeah,
exactly right. Now,
yeah.
food. What kind of food do you think people should bring?
So you need to take, because you're on the mountain. If everything goes well, you're still going to be on the mountain 7 or 8 hours. So of course you need something to eat. We recommend a good sandwich, fruit, dry fruit, chocolate is very good and high in energy. Um, Anything really that provides fast energy. Um, so cereal bars, dry fruits,
Yeah.
things that are not too heavy and provide energy.
I could have used this advice when we went up, because when we went up, we only brought like 2 liters. No, in all fairness, I think we actually brought two bottles of 2 liters, but I can confirm it was not enough. Absolutely not enough. By
Yeah,
the time I don't think we were barely up to the top when we were already saying, oh, I think we need to ration the water. We need to drink just a little bit of top. And so we started rationing the water even before getting all the way up. So we had some to have on the way down. And I know when we got to the bottom, my son was just totally dehydrated. We went to the little snack bar that they had there at the bottom at the time, and bought him a bottle each of 2 liters of water, and he just drank it like in no time. Unfortunately, he paid the price and got sick as a result of doing that too quickly. But I certainly echo: bring enough water, bring a big backpack, and put as much as you can carry in there as far as water.
yes. Well, not because you have to carry it. So yeah, to take too much can also bother you. But yeah, a
Yeah,
minimum of a liter and a half for sure.
yeah,
I wouldn't go up
definitely.
less.
Definitely in the minimum. João, thank you very much for doing this. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to doing another one with where we'll cover off some of the tours that we actually that you actually offer, and including one similar to the one that you did with us with Carlos and Laura as well. So I really appreciate the time and you taking the time to give us some insights in what people should do as they plan to climb Pico Mountain. And as we said, please, be careful, be safe, and if at all possible, use a guide to help you do it properly so you don't end up in the hospital or worse. So anyway, thank you very much, João, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you next time. Bye.
There's a place I have found in the shade on the ground, far from all worries and troubling sound. When I go there to be by myself, only me, no one can guess what I came there to see. There's a sun in the sky, there's a cloud drifting by, all kinds of birds make you wish you could fly. And in the distance I see someone waving at me. I hope